What is up, guys? It's Alex the Magician here, and in this video I am going to do something a little bit different than what I normally do. So normally I make strategy videos, some kind of guides. In this video I actually wanted to make a tier list for heroes. I remember somebody asking me about that like maybe way back 5 or 6 months ago, and I realized there wasn't really a tier list for heroes. You know, people have tier lists for towns, and I'll probably make my own tier list for towns as well, but I think it's generally kind of accepted what, strength the towns have. And when it comes to actual heroes, it's not quite as clear. So I think that if you're looking to understand, what hero to main, if you're trying to figure that out, I think this video is going to be helpful for you, mainly because of the explanation of their abilities and how to use them. And you may actually disagree, or some people may disagree with my tier list because obviously this is going to be a little bit subjective. And as you'll see, I tend to favor spellcasters a little bit, but either way, I think this will be useful due to the explanation of their abilities and how to use them. And another thing that I'll mention is that this is based mostly on the Jebus Cross template because that's what I mostly play. And also, this is based on the Horn of the Abyss expansion and, generally online play versus other people. In some templates, it may be a little bit different, so some heroes may be more or less useful depending on the actual template, but still I think in general, the list is going to be somewhat close to, excuse me, the list is going to be somewhat close to this, and the explanation of the abilities of heroes should still give you an understanding of what hero you can use in what situation. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get into this. All right, number one, the God tier hero. I'm sure you guys who watch my streams will already know without even watching this video. That is going to be Luna. So this could be debatable for sure. Some people don't like Luna as much as I do, but the reason I have her as the top tier hero is because she is just so useful for basically anything. So you can farm the map really easily with Luna. Early game, Luna is really good. Like all you need is some experience and some spell power, and you can farm conces, you can farm hives, you can farm pickets. You can take a lot of fights without any army, basically, on just her firewall. Certainly, there are situations that are bad for Luna. There are things that make things a bit more difficult, like, for example, if you're facing a break that's magic resistant, or you're facing something, really fast or ranged. So those things will make things more difficult for Luna. There are conditions where maps can certainly be not Luna friendly. However, in general, I would say the amount of use that you can get out of Luna in most cases, even if it's not necessarily maining her, even if it's just farming the map, it's really, really good. I mean, anytime I would get Luna as a hero when I'm playing any game, if it's not Conflux, if I just get her in the tavern or a prison, I'm automatically thinking about maining her and, doing as much stuff as possible with Luna. So, yeah, the God tier hero is Luna. You guys can hate me for it, but I still think that she's probably the most useful, especially in the early game and farming the map. As far as like the late game goes, she's still really good because she's gonna be a really good spellcaster. But there could be heroes that are better than her in like the late game. But getting to that point, I think she's better than pretty much any other hero that I'll have on this list, just because she can farm the map really easily and do fights with generally no army. Okay, next, I'm actually gonna place the Armour heroes. So that's gonna be Tazar and Mephala. And I don't have the genie hero, I forget what her name is, Neela, right? I don't have Neela here because Neela doesn't get such a good stat progression as Tazar or Mephala, and actually I would favor Tazar over Mephala because Beastmasters naturally get a lot of defense as their stat progression. Rangers like Mephala also get a lot of defense, but not quite as much. So and with the armor specialty, that works really well when you get a lot of defense. So for that reason, Tazar, I would put him a little bit above. But both Tazar and Mephala are good. And even Neela is really good. I was actually, like, I had a tower break against something really difficult. I don't remember what it was, either dragons or devils or something. And I decided to main Neela, and I was still able to break like 117 or 121 with... not nearly as big of losses as I could have, if I was, maining Solmir or somebody like that. So yeah, she can still be useful, but here, I'm gonna favor Tazar and Mephala. Yeah, basically, you also have the other two heroes, the offense specialists, Corcus and Craig Hack. But I would favor defense over offense. I would say in general, defense is gonna be more useful, like for doing the break, for example, for doing difficult fights that you can't really, because offense, like when you're fighting something like, let's say, Black Dragons or Archangels, offense is not gonna be as helpful, right? You're gonna take a lot of damage. So defense is gonna be a lot better. So with armor, you can take more difficult fights, and your units are going to be a lot tankier. They're better for taking hives and things like that. So I would say, yeah, like a really good Tazar or a really good Mephala at like level 20 or something like that is going to be really, really good and really tough to deal with, and even in the final battle. So in the final battle, I would say Craig Hack and Corcus are also going to be quite useful with their offense specialty. But getting to that point, again, you're going to get, I think, more utility out of heroes like Tazar and Mephala by taking more difficult fights in your biome, by, possibly doing Utopias, doing the break and things like that. And it's going to be a bit more difficult for Craig Hack or Corcus. Okay, so next, I am actually gonna put Eovacious. So Eovacious has a clone specialty, and that can also be really strong, especially if you get water magic. Well, you usually have to get water magic for Eovacious, but if you do, you would be able to do some really difficult fights with his clone specialty because of his you get 2 clones when you cast it first time in a battle, right? I was able to do, for example, a Green Dragon's break once on 116, I think, because I had Eovacious, and I with like no losses. So Eovacious with his clone ability is really good. You can also do really difficult fights with him in the early game because of his clone specialty. You just got to make sure that you have enough spell power so that your clone doesn't disappear in just one round. So yeah, he's quite useful. Yeah, he's pretty useful in more, I would say, the mid to late game where you're farming the desert and things like that. He can take difficult fights there, and he can do difficult breaks. Early game, probably not as useful, but you can still find use of him. Okay, next I am going to put the Resurrection Specialists. So that would be Jadit and Alamar. And I would actually favor Alamar over Jadit because Alamar has Scholar, right? So anytime you get Alamar in the tavern, it's pretty good because you can always teach Resurrect to another hero if you're maining another hero, or if Alamar doesn't roll Earth Magic, right? So but both of them can be quite good. With Jadit, obviously, you can also teach Resurrect to somebody else, but you need another Scholar, or another hero who's going to be a Scholar, or Jadit getting Scholar. So with Jadit, he's not quite as useful if he doesn't roll Earth Magic, right? Alamar can still teach Resurrect even if he doesn't have Earth Magic. But both of them are quite good. You can also do some difficult fights. You can do breaks. You can do utopias with their resurrect if they have earth magic. So, I think pretty self-explanatory. Resurrection specialists are A plus over here. Okay, so next I am going to put the offense specialists. That's going to be Craig, Hack, and Corcus. And you do also have Gundula as the offense specialist, but the reason I'm not including her here is because she's a battle mage and her stat progression is not going to be that good. So Craig, Hack, and Corcus are going to get a lot of defense offense attack skill as their stats progress as they level up. So that's why I have them here. Again, they are quite useful. Dealing a lot of damage is useful, and that can be helpful against breaks and things like that. But the problem there is if you have to fight, why I have the armor specialist higher than them is if you have to fight something that's really fast that you can't really protect yourself against, or go into utopias or something like that, you're gonna take hits, right? So, and the fact that Corcus and Craig Hack, or offense specialists in general, are the most useful if you can just one-shot your enemy, whatever you're fighting, and not take any hits, right? That's their like hit fast and hit hard and don't take any hits, right? But unfortunately, that's not going to be possible in a lot of cases, right? In a lot of cases, you're going to have to take some hits. In more difficult fights, you need, more defense, right? That's why armor heroes, I feel like, are a little bit more useful. But, Craig, Hack, and Corcus are still going to be quite useful, especially for fights that are, let's say you're fighting, a really big stack, or, a really high number of like Cavaliers, or, something like Gorgons that are, really, really tanky, or like Hydras who are slow but tanky. So something like that, yeah, they're going to be quite useful against. Again, best use of offense specialists are if you can actually one-shot whatever you're fighting and not take any hits from it. If you're taking hits, then it's armor specialists that are going to be better. Okay, and next I am gonna put Giselle. And actually, she can be higher on the list, but I'll explain to you guys why I have her this low. So Giselle is basically a hard counter to all spellcasters. At a high enough level, she's going to reduce anybody's spell power to 0. And, so essentially that makes anything, when you have her specialty and you have interference artifacts, that's essentially going to reduce any spellcasting that your opponent has to just about nothing. Right? And then if you combine that with Giselle actually having some sort of magic, that's basically a win condition right there, right? So she basically is a hard counter to, anybody like Luna, Eovacious, any other spellcasters, Alamar, Jadits that you have. So she can, in the late game, she can certainly beat any of these spellcasters, right? The reason that I have her this low on the list, I was actually debating about putting her on second place, right behind Luna. But the reason that I have her kind of this low is because she's actually not that useful in the early game, right? Her use is essentially just final battle, right? So she is nothing special when it comes to actually farming the map or doing the break or anything like that, whereas all of these heroes are going to be really useful until that point, right? Giselle basically is going to be really strong in the final battle or the late game, when it comes to actually doing fights in the end and actually reducing the opponent's spell power, right? Which certainly can win you the game, but until that point, Giselle is not going to be really that useful, right? So that's why I have her, at A- over here rather than a little bit higher. Okay, next I am going to put Grindon and Lebetha, right? The reason that I'm gonna put Grindin and Lebetha here is because they both start with Earth Magic, right? And Grindin, I would say, is favored a little bit over Lebetha because he also starts with slow, right? So you don't have to actually worry about rolling slow in the Mage Guild, and Lebetha doesn't, right? So with Lebetha, you would still need to get slow. Basically, they're here because of their mostly early game usefulness. Close to level 5, they can usually get Expert Earth Magic, which means that you can do a lot of fights on mass slow without really having an incredibly strong army. So they're pretty useful and pretty strong in the early game because of that. And actually, people used to say that Grindin was OP before they nerfed slow. But I would say now he's quite strong as well. But yeah, generally, you know, they're really here because they are starting with Earth Magic. Their specialties are nothing useful. Grindin is plus gold specialty and Lebetha is Stone Skin. So basically, they're only here because they start with Earth Magic. So if you're having trouble getting a hero that has Earth Magic, it's always good to have one of these. Okay, after this, I am selecting Gunner, right? Gunner is a logistics specialist, which is quite good, and it can be really good in the late game when you really need a lot of moves to kind of reach things that you may not be able to reach. So at a high enough level, he's going to have 3,000 moves. There are other logistics specialists like Kier and Dessa, but I like Gunner over those two because of his good chance, because he's an overlord and he's going to get good skills. He's going to have a high chance of rolling Earth Magic. He's going to have offense and things like that. Whereas Gundula, or not Gundula, sorry, Dessa is going to have kind of a bad stat progression because he's Battle Mage, and Kier is also, going to have a not such a good chance of rolling Earth Magic. Kier is going to have a better chance of rolling Water Magic and things like that. So I would favor Gunner over those two. But still, any logistic specialist can be useful, mainly because of the movement, right? But I would still favor Gunner over Kier or Dessa. Okay. And the next one is going to be other spellcasters like Solmir, Deemer, and Acelin, right? They have a specialty. So Solmir has Chain Lightning, Deemer and Acelin have Meteor Shower, right? So they're obviously not as useful as some of the other spellcasters like Eovacious, Alamar, Jadit, but they can still be pretty useful. Solmir can be quite useful in the early game. If you're playing with Tower, I generally start with Solmir over somebody like Aina or Iona or Josephine that people sometimes start with, or Thane, because I prefer to have the ability to use Chain Lightning. So that usually means that I'll be able to do more difficult fights. Like I can actually take some kind of a ranged guard, like maybe Wood Elves, maybe Marksmen, maybe Gogs or something like that, and just Chain Lightning them right away, and then I don't take a lot of damage on my Gremlin stack, right? Whereas if you're fighting with Thane, you wouldn't really be able to do that, right? And you would still take damage, you would take more damage. So for that reason, I prefer Solmir. Deemer and Acelin, you generally don't really start with them. Sometimes you might main them, but they can still be useful because of their Meteor Shower ability. You can hit and run some things. You can, maybe even take side villages with them because of their ability. Maybe they can clear some blocks, especially with Acelin. If you get some whites as Necro and you face, a fight that's a little bit more difficult for the whites to handle, you can actually, Meteor Shower them as well, and then get through that way. So, again, not amazing, not super amazing, but they can be useful. Okay, and the last tier, I was actually going to make 2 more tiers, but this tier list only allowed me to have 10. So the last one, I'm going to have the intelligence specialists. So Elishar, Aiden, and Andra. I mean, they're not amazing, but they can be useful, you know, because of their intelligence specialty, they get a lot of mana, right? And in some cases, you know, having more mana can actually win you the game in kind of like the late game. It depends though. You know, there comes a point where it's kind of a diminishing returns, right? At a high enough level, it's not really going to matter whether you have, you know, 600 mana or like 800 or something like that. I mean, it could matter a little bit, but I remember, for example, I had a game where I had 600 mana and my opponent had over 1,000, and I was able to win because I had really good interference, and I was just able to, you know, implode him faster than he could resurrect or summon or something like that. So for that reason, you know, I kind of have them down here. They can be useful, but, you know, I would prefer to main anything above them, you know, any of these other heroes as opposed to the intelligence specialist. Although in some cases, you know, let's say if you're playing as Necro and you're having a hard time finding a hero or finding something that gives you, you know, a lot of mana like knowledge and spell power, you know, they can be decent options for mains. And also, the last thing that I'm going to add here is Malekith. He is a sorcery specialist, right? There are a lot of other sorcery specialists. There's Sandro and Stig and Zyder and Spint, but I would select Malekith above them because he is a warlock, and that means that he's going to get a good amount of spell power and knowledge as he levels up, better than the other ones, right? Now, the reason that I have him here is that sorcery specialty can actually be quite strong in the late game. When, you know, actually somebody did a test on this, and they actually, when they leveled up a hero to level 90 or something like that to the max level, the maximum amount of damage that was possible from a spell was by Malekith, and most of that damage was due to his sorcery skill, right? Because he gets the bonuses to, he gets a bonus every time he levels to damage that he does with spells. So at a high enough level, you can do a lot of damage with him, but, you know, it's not really going to be that useful in the early game. Usually, you know, the only use of that is probably going to be in the like final fight or, you know, really late game where you need to be doing a lot of damage in, you know, maybe Utopias or maybe some other difficult guards or something like that. Alright guys, well that's about everything for this tier list. I suppose I can mention, you know, below this I would probably put Overlords because they have a good chance of rolling Earth Magic. So, you know, anybody like Shakti or Damacon or Dace, you know, those are also decent. And, you know, Necromancers also have Death Knights have a decent chance of rolling Earth Magic, but I would not necessarily put them, I would certainly select Overlords over Necromancers because, you know, obviously with Necromancers, Death Knights, you're wasting a skill slot for Necromancy, right? And if you're not actually playing as Necro, it's not going to be that useful for you. And everybody else, like Castle Heroes, I'm not a fan of. Most Rampart heroes I'm also not a fan of. Most Inferno heroes I'm not a fan of. There are some decent heroes in Cove, like Cassiopeia is pretty good. Jeremy can be pretty good. The other towns, what else do we have? Barbarians, I would say I'm also not a huge fan of, but Tyrixor can be decent as well. So, that is the overall list. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned something. I hope that this helps you, you know, in the next game when you're trying to figure out what hero you're going to main. I hope this kind of gives you a little bit more information so you understand these abilities a little bit better, so you're better equipped to, you know, face whatever you're facing. Because when you get one of these heroes and you know, not so much at the bottom level, but some of these top tier heroes, when you get one of them, you can certainly face difficult situations. Like I said, like with Eovacious, you can do a green dragon break or something like that. Same with Tazar or Mephala, you know, you can do those kinds of things, you know, if you know how to use these heroes properly. Okay guys, so I am going to end the video there. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you guys want to see more Heroes 3 content, as usual, you can follow me on my Twitch stream. I'll have the link in the description below. And that's about it. So, thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more videos. Peace out.